Hi everyone, this is Nu-Trix, the synth guy. Today I'm going to talk about the Roland A-01. That's one of the module synthesizer that I bought this year. The Roland A-01 is a weird machine in the fact that when you look at it, it looks like a toy almost, but actually pretty well made. This is all metal, face. The knobs are very sturdy. They're metal. The keyboard comes with it because it's a bundle. They call it the A01K because it comes with a keyboard, but it's the same keyboard that you find in any boutique Roland modules that you can use with them. And so it means that this part here can totally be moved or removed and connected, or you can use that keyboard with another module if you want. So this is a piece of gear that is fairly weird, and like a lot of things that Roland does, unless you get to read the manual or talk to people who use it, sometimes you go, oh, you don't know it can do that, and it's only when you use it and you find that it does other things. So the A01 is a weird beast in the fact that it's actually three things into one box. It is a very powerful MIDI controller. The fact that it can send, even with the knobs here or the sliders, you can send MIDI signal, but advanced MIDI signals. You could send system exclusive. There's a mode here called control. When you're in the control mode, there's actually three modes. You get the control mode where you can send all these knobs here can send messages. You can send these two here. You can pretty much control whatever you want. You can program it to send any system exclusive or any type of message you want. So it becomes a very powerful controller if you've got hardware synthesizers. And in the back, you've got real MIDI plugs. You've got a MIDI out and a MIDI in. Yeah, that's it, the two of them. You got on top of that, you've got a CV and gate. So you can also control analog hardware very simply. And there's a USB connector for MIDI. So also if you want to connect to your computer, it's very powerful. But guess also what's interesting is here, you've got Bluetooth for MIDI. So this is a control that can basically, as a controller, can be hooked up to MIDI gear any way you want. It can be used for a computer, for an iPad, and it can be used for gate, CV, and hardware MIDI. And all of that at the same time or separately. That's kind of, I'll explain how it works, but really is interesting for that. So of course, if you go into MIDIs because you've got hardware and you want to control specific things. The other mode is synthesizer. It is a weird, interesting 8-bit analog, virtual analog or virtual emulation of a synthesizer. It's a monophonic synthesizer, and it's fairly simple to move around. When you're in the mode of synth, you've got 4 windows: oscillator, filter. You go in filter, you switch to that window. Envelope, you switch to that window. LFO, you switch to that window. So there's only 4 windows. For each windows, when you want to switch or change something, let's go to oscillator 1, or actually oscillator, the first page. You can play CD sound. You actually see the waveform here, which is a pretty cool little thing. If you want to create anything with it, let's say you're in the first window, oscillator, you've got saw, square, pulse width modulation, and noise. These are the waveform you can choose, and to select them, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. When you press on them, you're changing the choice here of waveform, okay? Then at the bottom, you've got these 4 controls, physical controls or knobs. You got pulse width to control. If you're selecting pulse width modulation, you can change. So you can change the width of the pulse with that control here. You've got portamento on or off, portamento time if you've got portamento, and you've got the octave of the sound module. So you can switch -3 to +3. So in this case, if I'm at 0, let's say, if I go -2, it actually does pretty cool bass sound and pretty nasty lead sounds. Because it's an 8-bit CPU, It doesn't always sound 8-bit like all arcade sounds, but you've got that grain that is interesting in it, you know. So it's monophonic. Then you go into filter. Filter, you've got type 1, 2, 3. Basically, listen to them. So low pass for 1, high pass for 2, and band pass for 3, or peak, depending how I want to call it. And 4 is no filter. So you got the raw waveform playing. Now, if you go to any of these 1, 2, or 3, you've got the cutoff point, the resonance, the envelope modulation, how much the envelope will actually affect that filter, and the LFO modulation, how much the LFO will affect that filter. So very straightforward, very easy to play with. Then you've got the envelope. There's only one envelope. So the envelope is for volume and also for, depending if you want to use it for the filter, if you selected filter envelope here, the envelope modulation here, sorry, it will affect that envelope also to the filter. So again, you got attack, decay, sustain, release. These are the basic stuff you can have that you find usually in any type of you know, synth, subtractive synth anyway. And if you go on S2, which is gate, then you only have on and off. There's no change in, let's say I'm going to go back here and get rid of the LFO, okay? I can easily get lost and just play it for fun because it just is a cool synth. Now we go into LFO, which is the fourth window. The LFO, you basically have the wave shape of the LFO. You've got sine wave, you've got square, sawtooth, and random. And depending which one you want, the shape will change. You've got modulation. If you play with modulation, you're sending the LFO to the pitch. So it becomes, let's say go higher. So the pitch will change. So this is just to affect the pitch. And you've got rate, so the speed of it. So again. So you could create weird stuff. Whatever, okay? And you've got the pulse width modulation. So again, if you selected on the oscillator 1 pulse width, you could assign the LFO to move the pulse width of the pulse width modulation. So that would be happening over here in this one. And then we get zoom. If you select zoom, the whole screen becomes the waveform that you actually play. So it's an interesting way to learn how the sound is affected by what you're doing. And that's the synth. This is it. This is all there is. It's a monophonic subtractive because there's a filter. And there's actually, when you play with banks, there's something here, bank 1 and bank 2. If you press on bank 1, you can select one of the 8 memories. I'm just going to play them. These are not necessarily the factory banks. You hear this, you know, artifact in the sound because of the 8-bit, you know, quality of it. Let's try this one. This one. And there's also, sorry, bank 2, another. You can clearly hear the artifacts of the 8-bit, especially in the filter. Let's try this one. But but it gives that sound. These are really cool sounds, you know. And you can do kind of. So these are sounds that really cuts through a mix because they've got that grain. They're a little bit nasty. So this is pretty cool for the sounds itself. Now, this is the second mode. We talked about the first one being the controller, the second one, third one is the sequencer. So there's a sequencer in this thing, which is a 16-step sequencer. Basically, you press on. So this one, now, you can have the sequence play and go bang, go select into the sound. And then it's very easy to play with and come with, you know, nice. Now, if you want to create your own steps sequence, it's very simple. You actually select which one of the four. So you switch between 4 groups of, you know, blocks of 4 steps. You go into the first one, let's say, and then if you press on this one and you keep your finger on it, you get all the information: the key, the gate, the cutoff, the resonance. So you can really control resonance, cutoff for each steps. Now, if you don't want to go that far, you get your 4 here. You just press 1, and by pressing on it, you press the key you want to play, press the other key, press the other key, press the other key, and then you press play, and you got. So basically, you just typed in the note you want. Now, if you keep your finger on it, let me just check. Is this one? You can actually skip. No, this one I want to. There, you can link by pressing on the key of the step, let's say 1, and press it. You can link now. You've got the 4 of them linked. Now, if I press play, so you can really do, you know, very interesting control over that. Of course, here you've got the tempo. Let's say I'm going to deselect these so they become separate. Let's say I'm going to load another one just to have another sound. So you can have, also you've got the memory. You've got 2 banks of 8 memory of sequences. So let's say I load the other one. I'm going to switch into the sound just to hear something else on that. Let's say. Let's say I'm going to. Then you can play with the order of the steps. Just the even and odd, so play the even notes, then the odd notes. Odd only, even only. Odd to even to odd, and random. Now, you've got the mode sequence, you've got the mode, again, just go back here, pattern 7. So you see the memory you're in because I was bank 7 here. If I press 8, you get pattern 8. Press play. You see the playing here. There's the odd. Now, so you go into mode for controller mode, and you press in menu. By pressing menu, you've got two choices. You can press system or patch. Let's say you go system and increase. You select that. You get the master tune, you get the tempo, you've got the LCD contrast, and you can move down. Auto off, echo mode, Bluetooth. If you don't use it, you can turn it off. Because it works on battery also, so by turning it off, it will actually take less battery. It will stop trying to find it. And you've got the name. It's basically just a number. The key velocity for the keyboard, the curve for velocity for the keyboard, MIDI clock, because it could sync MIDI clock, which is really interesting. If you select something else than auto, you're basically an internal. Or auto means if something comes in, it will actually sync to it. The CV scale, depending on what you're connected to it, so all the CV information. Bulk dump for system exclusive. Factory reset if you want to reset it to factory because you did so much stuff in it that doesn't work anymore. Let's get out of there and try this again. But now let's go into patch mode. You go increase. Now you've got bank select, so you can send messages. That's what I'm saying. You can send a lot of messages for loading, let's say, memory into from another synthesizer. And you can see a lot of things here are there for selection or choose. But what's interesting is you get the note scale. You can even change the way the note might play. But something interesting is you get sequence, transmit, channel. So you can say that the sequencer will transmit on channel, let's say 2. And you can also say the synth controls source will be all, meaning anything that plays will control the sequencer, the synthesizer, or you could say it's only going to be controlled by the keyboard. So the keyboard would control the synth, but the sequencer would control external devices, outside of it. Or you could say that the 16-step sequencer will control the synth, the internal synth, and the keyboard will control external devices. And that's it. And then you can select the channel that will control the internal synth if you would use, let's say, an external device to control it. So it's pretty interesting. And then after the channels, that's it. You get MIDI channels. That could be MIDI hardware or USB or Bluetooth. And then you've got step sequencer, the keyboard, or anything that comes in will trigger it. Same thing for the gate. Gate CV out, you could say for the gate out is going to be the keyboard going to control the gate, and the 16-step will, so you could have a setup where you have, let's go back here, you have the keyboard on the internal synth, so you're playing the internal synth, but the CV and gate controls an outside modular synthesizer. And the two together, you've got, let's say, a bass line playing with the sequencer, and you're playing the lead on top of it. So it's really, really interesting for that. That's why I'm saying that the little beast that this is fairly powerful. And that's it. I mean, that's basically a very quick run through, but at the same time, that device does this really well. In my case, I bought this because I wanted the Bluetooth to control my iPad, so it becomes a really cool controller for the iPads. Runs really well with Gadget. But at the same time, I love the fact that it can just take that on my lap, on, in the balcony if I want, and just create a sound, create a step sequence, or use a whole bank to have 8 different step sequence. And when it's done, well, I can come back into the house and plug into my computer and just, record what I did, or into, Gadget if I want, because it's in synced. If I press play on Gadget, this will also sync to the same speed. So I could actually record the output of that into Gadget while it's in sync with the beat and the song that I did in Gadget. Well, I'll do another video just to show a little bit how I would do that. So that's it for today. I hope you like this. If you want more of this type of reviews and tests, just give me a thumbs up and write if there's any more devices. I can easily get my hand on Roland stuff and do demos of it if you're interested. The rest of it is stuff that I own that I will talk about. Next one would probably be the Novation BassStation, which is something I bought at the same time I bought this one. And that will be probably my next one I'm going to go through. It's a very nice analog monophonic synth. So see you next time. Cheers.